Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go through a standard tier list for July 2023. The strategy presentation has been released and there's no actual info of any ban lists. So a great time for us to kind of look at the metagame at the moment, see what is dominating in standard, and going forward, into the BCS season, what we expect to see. If you guys need any coaching for the BCS season, however, feel free to hit me up on my Metafy. Link is in the bottom right hand corner and in the descriptions. Feel free to book a session and we can get started. So we're going to brush through a bunch of these like super quick. Would have explained this in a previous video. So we're going to run through a few of them super rapidly and then just get to the ones that really need some discussion. So Dragon Tree, it's pretty mid. Nothing more to say there, to be honest. The deck needs a lot more support just to make it slightly more consistent, but I think from the way that the deck kind of operates on an overtrigger, you can't really give it too much support, otherwise it'll break the game. Buff Sagra, I think Buff Sagra is pretty good, just your average deck, I guess, with some new additions. Overlord's still good. Now Gandiva is immediately S tier. This is probably one of the most dominant decks in the format at the moment, and will soon to be, continuing its onslaught as it goes into set 11. Obviously English won't get Mushi King, or at least we don't know if we're getting Mushi King. Highly unlikely. We don't have Monster Strike either, so maybe this is like a format tier list for both JP, but I'm not too sure if Mushi King is actually in here. But essentially, Gandiva is the best deck at the moment, followed by something else that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, very, very strong deck. As everyone knows, feel free to check my deck profile out for all the answers to Gandiva. Jeva, needs a lot more support to bump it up to the higher tiers. Mahaz, I guess, dropped off. It does get a new PR, but I don't think the PR actually arrives in English fast enough. Still has a jump engine, but I think just all the other decks outclass it. We do have the Snake now, and I think the Snake is alright. It used to be really good prior to some of the new stuff that just came out. So yeah, Snake kind of goes into this average here. So I think B is the tier where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with bringing this deck to a BCS and doing above average, right? So maybe I'll put like the Dragon Tree here. Shouju Doji, it's like a weaker version of the Snake. Tamayura is, I guess it's average, it's alright. Barra Magnus as well. Grade 3 Bruce, I don't know. I don't know about Grade 3 Bruce. I think, yeah, maybe you just put it in average. You have like Patrick or whatever, but I don't know if like Patrick works with the Grade 3 Bruce. I'm not sure. Chronojet goes in A. The deck is still good. It still does what it does, and yeah, it's just a solid deck. Obviously, Gandiva slightly outclasses it, but it's not like Jet can like auto lose or does auto lose to Gandiva. Jujud, so Jujud, the normal Grade 3 goes in average, but I think the Jujud Mask goes in A. We do have Empusa as a shop challenge PR, so I think that's really good. The PR just makes this deck really, really strong. I think it's just a really solid deck. And yeah, beat them quick. And yeah, don't let Gandiva scale out of the game. Favnil comes out later on, and I think it's an average deck. I think it's, benchmark deck, which is alright. Same with Greedon, Chaos. I think Chaos, when it gets set 11, it gets much better. It becomes like Shahara in BT 11, where you have guard restricts on rear guard. Lucia as well. Lucia gets better with both of the PRs, as well as the double R that considered as a grade 1, I think, or grade 0. Really, really strong. Unicart is super mid. I know that there were 2 cards released today, and yeah, it's just not it. Same with Bipo Mask. Grade 4 Bruce is alright. Yeah, just your average. Viamance as well. Bastion can still win games, I guess, so we'll just put it in B. Graham Grace is, needs a bit more support. Now Hexorb, so normal Hexorb we'll put down here, but Aquamarine, I think, is a very strong deck, and I think a lot of people are, overlooking this deck. We've seen a lot of results from the Japan side, and I think the deck is very, very strong. Definitely a deck that you have to look out for in the BCS season. Tegra is alright. Minerva is alright for now. The moment it gets its PR and its RR, it jumps straight to A or even S. I think the deck is very, very strong. The grade 1 just makes the deck absolutely insane. So yeah, at the moment, or maybe it goes in A. I think it goes in A. And once it gets its support, it goes into S. So yeah, I think it's a formidable deck. Definitely a deck that you can bring nowadays. PBO, maybe the higher parts of B, MLB as well. Solarion, I don't know, man. I think this deck needs a lot more to kind of carry it. Youthberg is still good. Archite is alright, so maybe up here somewhere. Vanguard, we don't have the PR yet, and even then it just is a pretty subpar deck. Wellstra is alright, but I think it's dropped to maybe like B tier, I think. I mean, it's still pretty good. Yeah, maybe like the top of B, low of A. I think that's a pretty good place for it to be. Heroes is pretty average. Eva. So Eva is actually pretty high. As much as people say, you know, Eva has dropped off, but that's because it's dropped off in popularity because there's other decks that, you know, kind of carry, you know, other people's preferences, so to say. So you'll see the Eva numbers drop, but I think Eva is still good, and especially to Gandiva, Eva is actually a really favorable matchup, well, a favorable deck in that matchup. So yeah, Gravidia still does what it does, so maybe like up here somewhere. Messiah, I think Messiah's alright. I think it's maybe the low of A. Very strong deck. You know, Stride decks tend to be strong anyways, just because of the Stride mechanic as a whole. I think Messiah has a lot of, you know, potential to be, you know, one of the best decks coming into, you know, the BCS format. Orphist, I think Orphist just kind of sits up here. Kind of still have to give respect to it. Just because, you know, Orphist is really strong. Once it gets to, you know, the later sets, I think this deck will, you know, blow out of proportions, I think. And when it gets its mask, I think it will be a really, really strong meta contender. Prison is just okay for now. The new PR kind of helps it, but not so much that it will bring it up to A tier. I think maybe it just goes like down here a bit more, just because, you know, there's a lot of decks that are faster than it, and it's still a turn 4 deck, which feels really bad. Flagberg, kind of the same. I think Flagberg is, like, as much as people say Flagberg is great, I think it's pretty mid. Especially if you know how to play into it. And with Gandiva running around, like, man, Flagberg has a really hard time with like super control decks. Granfia goes here. Normal Leonorn. Oh no, Granfia goes lower, sorry. And then Leonorn Mask, average-ish deck. I guess like maybe the top row of A is just, B is kind of where it is. But otherwise, you know, I wouldn't, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't count on, you know, things being better than others. So I'll just regard B as, you know, its own tier, and, you know, the decks in it are just good. So maybe I'll put like Wellstra up here then. Yeah, so then that way, you know, there's a definitive line between what's an A tier deck and a B tier deck. Maelstrom, also in B, a good benchmark deck. Magnolia as well. Grade 3 Magnolia, I don't know. Grade 3 Magnolia with Persona Ride is just, I don't know, not my forte. Same with Roroa. Zorga Mass is good, and then the other two Zorgas just kind of drop a bit lower. I think Zorga Mass is like the new Zorga norm. I think that's kind of where it goes. So for this video, I'm going to look at the Festival Collection as well, because I think once the Festival Collection lapses over the next week when it releases, this will be like, you know, a good indicator of where the decks will be. And I think Alestial is actually really strong. Alestial is pretty much the Raging Form Dragon of D. Very, very strong deck, very aggressive. And I think a lot of people haven't tested enough with Alestial to kind of see its full potential. Clarissa, I think, got better. Felty, I don't know about Felty. I think Felty just kind of stays here. Hazaret as well. Herminia. Grade 3 Kari sits down here. Grade 4 Kari is okay. Kyoka stays down here. Lilfa stays here. Lorona roll. I think it's an average deck. Lutetia is still good, so maybe up here somewhere. Medio is just an average deck. I think it's better than some of these other decks. Michu is alright. Fort here just kind of sits down here with Herminia until she kind of gets support. Willista. So Willista actually goes in S. I think this deck is really, really strong and potentially even better than Gandiva. You know, some could say that, you know, Gandiva is still better. But yeah, I think Willista is very strong. Heaps of draws, multi-attacks, and yeah, it just doesn't really care. Like, it just does what it does. Just pluses so much, compresses the deck. It's just really, really strong. Highly recommend you guys pick up Willista for the BCS season. I think this deck is pretty nuts. Shaman King kind of goes down here. I don't know, it's just not really playable at the moment. And Ebisu goes in S if we ever get it in English. I guess this tier list is, you know, JP related as well. I think these three decks are really insane. Yeah, with the hit with Anastasia, I don't think it really changed the deck much. We saw a lot of, I guess, adaptations on the deck itself throughout the Vanguard and all of the Vanguard Deluxes. Ebisu is just so good, and it just does what it does, and very, very strong deck in the Japan metagame. So yeah, that's pretty much the tier list for Standard. This is a really quick recap of essentially what the format kind of looks like. And going forward into the BCS season, essentially what decks should you be, I guess, testing for? I would highly recommend you guys test for tier S and tier A. I think these decks are probably the most prominent decks that will come up in BCS. And pretty much if you can beat S and A decks, then you can kind of play by instinct on, you know, I guess tier B decks. But obviously, you know, something like Bavsagra sometimes can, you know, just catch you off guard and then win, just because of how explosive the grade 3 turn is. But I think predominantly the player base will bring something in the S and A tier, and then, you know, the first 2 to 3 rounds you'll see a lot of the B tier decks as well. So yeah, hopefully this is some insight for you guys to, I guess, base your BCS season off. And hopefully this will help you, you know, get your Worlds invite, get your top that you've been longing for. And this is pretty much all the information for the, you know, coming next 3 months. I'll probably do another recap come September after the strategy presentation then, just to see how things kind of morph. Obviously we have set 11 and set 12 coming out as well. So a lot of things in the pipeline, and, you know, this tier list might change drastically. So yeah, this is as of July 2023. This is the standard tier list. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of the current standard metagame at the moment, and moving forward, what are you guys looking forward to? If you guys haven't already, press subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.